Hey everybody!
Hey, it says we have 6 seconds left, Dom. What's going on?
Well, that's on Twitch.
Oh,
they're 6 seconds behind.
Are we live on YouTube?
We're live. We're live everywhere.
All right.
YouTube still has about 10 seconds to catch up to us.
Jerks. All right. But now we're with everybody. Everybody's with us now. Hello, everybody.
Everyone's here.
I'm Tom Lommel. I'm here to babble with you this evening under the stewardship of Mr. Dom Zook. This is Proficiency Check on the Saving Throw Show.
Yes, thank you.
Who's hosting this show?
Thank you, Tom.
What's going on?
I'm like, I start talking and then you like pick up. No, it works.
Yeah.
It works. It's fine.
I'm just trying to make your life easier, Dom. Nobody else does that around here.
Right? I sincerely appreciate it.
Except you people in the chat. Thank you.
Yeah.
For making Dom's life easier, because that's not my job.
Hello.
Hey Dom. Yeah, my show. I'm doing that on Monday. What is it today? Thursday. I'm still gonna do it.
Yeah.
I'm still planning to do it. Do we have players? That's how I approach the whole thing.
Yeah, it's really a
I saw that iDragon 14. That is not what I do best, but I can't share with you what I truly do best. It's singing. I'm a really good singer, you guys.
He is a singer.
Yeah.
Welcome all. Hello. Hi.
What was that?
Hi, Kimmy.
That was the weirdest, most are you cleaning windows?
I'm waxing on and waxing off.
Dom and I are trapped inside a glass box. Help. What? No.
Welcome to Proficiency Check.
It's not loud enough?
I am your host, Dom. It would be nice if it was a bit louder.
Not loud enough.
Farquad, you're always quieter. Turn your volume up.
Yeah. Go in the lower right, there's a little thing in the system tray that says master volume. Turn that up.
We're going to do this for Farquad, though. Everyone just kick back. We're going to make sure that Farquad can hear us appropriately.
Live to Game watched the video video of the event that I did. We were just talking about Gen Con. Last year at Gen Con, I sat in with Monty Cook Games, and we had a completely improvised adventure, and that was super fun using the cipher system. And we were all, the four of us, me and Shauna Germain and Bruce Cordell. I'm trying to remember who else was playing.
Was it Jen Page?
Yeah, I think it was Jen Page. At any rate, we all played sidekicks. So there you go. Sidekicks of superheroes. It was a fantastic display of incompetency. If you've never it's funny because if you have never played a campaign where you're actually the peons, it's a super fun change of pace rather than being the lowly guys who are destined to be heroes, right? Which is the standard trope.
Mm-hmm.
These are the guys who clearly continually screw things up, and it is one of the most fun twists on a way to play. It was we instantly had our hook. We're all incompetent. Well, there's no way that we can not screw this up.
That would be entirely too much fun, especially for a saving throw cast. I think to play the inept.
I mean, Barky's Brigade kind of already is.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, what?
Although they're heroic.
They do heroic things every once in a while.
Yeah. and then they do screw things up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the weird thing is, I don't think they screw things up on purpose. I've always seen us, when I've sat in, screw things up as a character choice.
That's true.
It's definitely role playing inspired. Whereas these characters were just not good at their jobs.
True. So we're going to talk a little bit today about the new season of Monday Night Dungeon Fight, which is hosted by Mr. Tom Lommel here.
That's me.
I don't know if you guys caught the first episode of the new season last week. We had some technical problems with it, but it's out there. It's available.
Like video audio technical problems. Oh
yeah,
I forgot.
Right.
The first half is archived on Facebook Live.
It's true. And it was an experience. It kicked off the week of bad technical issues.
Oh no,
with
it just
things.
continued.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be you got it and then it was over with, but no, it just kept rolling.
Yeah, well, we had different issues with different things, with audio, with Twitch, with all these other things. So Yeah, it
Yeah.
was fun.
We had Twitch problems with the first half of the show, and then we got it straightened out, and we got Twitch rolling for the second half of the show.
Right.
Which the good news is the second half of the show went on about as long as a regular show
That's
does.
true. That's true.
So we didn't skimp on the entertainment, guys. In case you were like, well, I'm not going over to Facebook. I need my 2.5 hours of Monday Night Dungeon Fight. You got it.
It was there.
You got it.
It was there.
Yeah.
Hey, we just hit 2,300 followers on Twitch. Thanks, guys.
Yay! It's a milestone.
It's a milestone.
It's not 2,500.
No, why would we celebrate 2,500?
No, 23 is definitely where it's at. I had a friend in college who came up with this, like, that there's some crazy theory about the number 23, and I don't know if this is a legitimate thing or just that he decided that this was a thing, but it's this whole like numerology thing of like, oh, you know, the number 23 has these mystical powers,
right?
And I'm like, this is a classic example of confirmation bias of like, oh, you happen to notice it more because you happen to notice it more,
right?
That's all. There's no actual there's nothing special about the number 23.
No.
Although in Monday Night Dungeon Fight you can roll a natural 23.
That's
true. That's one of the great things about it. That's one of the things we did not change from season 2 or season 1 to season 2. We did make a bunch of changes, or at least we did make some changes around some of the existing structure of Monday Night Dungeon Fight. So for those of you who are not familiar, I'll just briefly cover this.
While I'm struggling to open this thing.
While you struggle to open this surprise package that we got from James V.
Yes.
Monday Night Dungeon Fight is a head-to-head smash 'em up, mash 'em up, all-out player versus player brawl. So there's no role playing, there's no skill checks, there's no exploration. It is literally just like who can beat everybody else to death.
I call it RPG PvP.
Yes.
It's basically what it is.
It's sort of it's team deathmatch. Not even team deathmatch. It's just free for all deathmatch.
Yeah.
With role playing. So. So that's the deal. That's the deal with Monday Night Dungeon Fight. So we had 5 episodes, four qualifiers, and a season finale from season 1. And for last week's opener of season 2, we had our returning champion, Alex Escobar, come back to defend his title and qualify again. And then we had some buddies that I played D&D with at Adventurers League, and we all played the same table together, so they all knew each other. And I think it made for a fun night. I made some changes to the structure of the rules that got a little out of hand, in my opinion, and I don't think I'm alone in that. So
right. Running away is not in the spirit of.
Yeah, that's something we could maybe brainstorm on, because I was thinking about it today, and I realized that Monday Night Dungeon Fight does not penalize cowardice, right? So in the qualifying round, if you're just like, I'm going to go hide in the corner and maybe not open any barrels or whatever,
right?
As long as you can somehow find a way to do like 5 or 10 points of damage, there's no real penalty. You still have all of your hit points. So going into the final round, like, that's a huge advantage, because there's no healing in between the two qualifying. Between the qualifier bout and the finale.
Right.
So I think that's something that I may want to address. Although one thing that I have decided is so one of the things that we changed in season 2 is that the opening round now has an objective. So instead of just kind of like half of the battlefield fights each other and the other half of the battle fights each other, now there's an objective. So this last week it was capture as many goblins as you could, right? And I kind of liked that, but it also meant that the players did not beat on each other as much as they had in season 1.
Yeah.
So one thing I've decided is like, okay, that's fine, like I'm okay with that, but I don't want them to go into round 2 with piles of hit points. So I'm going to make the traps a lot deadlier, is what I've decided. Like, the traps on average do 4d6 of fire damage or whatever. I'm gonna crank all that stuff when a trap goes off. It's 10 die 6 damage. That's the way.
That's going to eliminate people a lot more quickly. Yes, live the game. You're in the area. If you get in the area, definitely come by the studio. We can get you set up to play Monday Night Dungeon Fight
That's
with
right.
us.
Absolutely.
Okay, just real quick. So, James V, 1971. I have no idea what this is. I just opened it, so we're going to take a look at this.
You gotta open it towards the camera. You can't open it.
No, I know. I'm trying to figure out which
way to open it. Oh, I think it goes like this.
Yeah.
What?
Oh my god.
That is awesome.
That's fantastic. Oh wow. Yes. That
Nice.
is that is exactly what it looks like. That's brilliant. Thank you so much, James. And this was done by our buddy, Mr.
Brian Patterson.
Patterson.
D20 Monkey. He
Yeah.
has a great variety of T-shirts, nerd D&D T-shirts on sale.
Yeah. A great webcomic. Really cool guy, and he also has a Patreon. If you like this art,
signed.
It is signed. I know. This is amazing. Thank you so much, James. Thanks for that. This is definitely going to go up in the studio, and have a nice backing thing for it. That's amazing.
Brian is on his way to back to the South, I believe. He and his girlfriend, she's going to grad school, and so they're moving right now. So the D20 Monkey store, I think, may be on temporary hiatus, but don't let that stop you from going and perusing and making an order.
Or backing him on Patreon, because now that he's moving,
they found out that their moving expenses were $1,300 more than they were expecting.
Oh, that's always fun.
Because they're the guy who estimated it for them screwed them.
That's terrible. Anyway, thanks again, James. That's super awesome. It's definitely going up in the studio. Okay, so back to Monday Night Dungeon Fight. And meanwhile, in my head, I'm just going to constantly be thinking about the Grumpf. So Monday Night Dungeon Fight, for anyone who is new, a lot of questions, a lot of times when we air Monday Night Dungeon Fight, the question is always, what system are we playing?
Yes, what system are we playing?
And you know, I often go, oh, this is a homebrewed thing, which we call the Rage system.
Yes.
Really awesome
Some
gaming engine.
Yeah. It's the Rage engine.
Oh, Rage engine,
yes.
Which is engine.
Yes, exactly. So it's the really awesome gaming engine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people go, oh, you know. So
weird. Why?
Yeah. But I think it's one of those things that I feel is pretty easy to kind of pick up, to kind of get a quick idea of what's going on, sort of.
Right.
But I'm always interested to know, like, what the chat, because the chat is always coming in, and sometimes people are coming or have watched it from the beginning. Sometimes they're this, like last week was the first time they ever saw an episode. So
right.
I'm curious to know. This is just a question for chat. You guys can hit us back, but how you guys, if you feel like there's enough of an explanation out there as to kind of what's playing, or if there needs to be anything more out there that helps sort of dictate kind of what's going on, so people can easily grasp it.
Right. I mean, one thing I definitely am trying to minimize this season, and I don't think I was always successful last season, was like the amount of opening gab that I do.
Right.
Is like I want to kind of get around, get introduced to our players. I realize I have to give you guys time to bet and to vote in the poll for what the secret objective is, but I don't want to talk for 20 minutes and before we finally get started, and that's easy for me to do. So that's one of the reasons that you don't, like, I'm trying not to explain the system at all. Like, I have a pregame huddle with all of the players, and I talk them through the system so they know how to play. Mm-hmm. But I really want it to be like, for one thing, it's built on the bones of your standard D&D game, right? So if you understand armor class and hit points, and saving throws, you get most of it. So that's that's important. And so it's supposed to be, you're supposed to be able to watch it and then still go like, how does he get to do that? Like, that's okay. I'm okay with a little bit of mystery happening.
I think some curiosity actually helps people kind of get around. I mean, that's sort of, I am not a sports guy, but I do enjoy watching baseball, and part of the thing that I enjoy watching about baseball is the really boring, like, wait, how did he get to second base? That guy had the ball. That doesn't make any sense. But having that kind of continual sort of, okay, there's another layer of rules that I don't quite get.
Yeah.
And not to say that there's like a stack of rules, because it's really quite simple.
I feel like maybe what we could do is, we've talked about having some like tutorial stuff and things like that in either our pre-roll or whatever, and maybe what we could do is do a quick rules overview of Monday Night Dungeon Flight that would be like 10 minutes long, and incorporate that into the pre-roll for the show.
Yeah.
So that as we're getting ready to go live on Twitch, instead of listening to the beautiful music, which we all have come to know and love and embrace,
Everyone loves Halfling Camp.
I will get you MP3 files that at least that I'm sure we can use.
I'm pressuring Wes to get me some stuff.
Oh, to do something?
Yeah.
Good point.
Yes, but yeah, if you watched Never Tell Me the Odds last week, we did the tutorial. We did the dice tutorial before during the 15-minute pre-roll, and we'll be doing that for more and more of our streams. But that's a perfect opportunity for us to sort of do that. However, the purpose of the pre-roll is to give people a chance to find out that we're on and then come in. So sometimes they miss that pre-roll. But
what we need is a pre-roll to our pre-roll.
Yeah, and we're going to start streaming at 6 in the morning for a 7 p.m. show. But no, we'll have a link, just like you guys are saying in chat. We'll have a link. We'll do the tutorial during the pre-roll, and we'll have a link to our YouTube where you can also watch the tutorial as well. We'll have a couple of different ones.
Yeah, so I think we could put something together for that.
Yeah,
that would help solve that problem of like, what is this? How is it playing? I'm like, how does it work?
Yeah.
I guess I don't know. I just sort of describe it as like D&D with a power-up meter. You know, once you understand that part of it, it's a D&D cage match with a power-up meter, and that's basically like how it works. You know, that's what the coins do, and you can either spend them offensively or defensively, but once it gets to 10, you really want to be able to drop the hammer. That's another thing I'm going to tweak. I'm going to make, well, that has been tweaked actually. The Storm of Fury things, the top powers that get unlocked do 12 die 6 damage now. They used to be capped at 10. Just because 10 was a good number, but I'm like, no, why not 12?
Right.
It's only on average 7 more points.
Well, and everything about the game is to be cranked up to 11, right? Or 12 or 30.
The only thing is, like, I don't want it to become weird, unmanageable amounts of dice. Like,
sure.
Like 20 die 6 maybe makes sense because it's 20 die 6. Although it's still too many dice to actually physically hold in your hand and roll.
Well, and then
counting them takes.
Well, and if you get into
21, if you just look in the box, it's 21. And ask Nick.
Exploding sixes or anything like that, then you start getting into
It goes all over the place.
Yeah.
And I like those dice stunts. I think those are fun, and it like gives players like an opportunity to get excited about their roll rather than just keeps rolling and the same thing happens. But I do want it to kind of stay in the 12 die 6 to 10 die 6 or whatever.
Right.
Are we still on?
Yeah, I'm just
okay?
I flip back and forth between YouTube and Twitch just because YouTube sometimes gets left in the dust, and people on
There's
YouTube.
People on YouTube who watch us.
Hi YouTube.
So yes, I think we could do a tutorial video, and I changed the.
That was something that BSB Care was harping on last time. People were not counting.
I don't understand why people do that, because that's the way I do it too. Is like let's pile together our dice. Like here's a group of 10. Here's a group of 10. Here's a group of 10. Yeah. Everybody has their own thing. I guess I'm not gonna tell people not to do it because everybody has their own way of doing it. But yeah, sometimes it also just floors me when people are like, "Oh, that's a lot of math."
Yeah.
What did you think was gonna happen?
Kind of what
tonight?
the game is.
That's kinda,
you kind of have to do that.
I don't know. I guess I could just have you roll a 4-sider and call it good, or you can roll 66.
All right.
It's up to you.
Everyone has 3 hit points, and you do 1d4 damage.
I will say that you guys in the chat often count faster than the people in the actual room, and you're on a 10-second delay.
That's true. Yeah.
So, God.
Yeah. Well, if only I could build D20 robot to count the pips that it sees, and then just give us an automatic.
I don't know. There's a Google Analytics.
I'm sure.
There's some sort of like deep learning system out there that you can. Why doesn't Twitch have a plugin that'll do dice counts for you?
Right. Well, Twitch needs lots of things. A dice counter would be probably pretty high on the list for me. Anyway, I didn't want to get us too sidetracked on the rules of Monday Night Dungeon Fight, because we covered
a couple
those
important
before.
things did change though, right? So
Yeah.
like those of you who watched last week saw Alex become mildly distressed that his character got updated for season 2, and a big part of that was like his main winning strategy last season was to he had a movement of 12 and he had a range of 12 on his throwing axe attack, so he could move 6, throw his axe 12 squares, hit somebody, and then move 6 back. So he was 18 squares away from anybody else on the battlefield. And that was perfectly valid. It was interesting. I'm sorry, BSB Care, that this prompted a change in the rules, but welcome to season 2. And guess what? He still fucking won. So quit crying.
That's true. Yeah. It's a 3-time winner now.
That's right. Coming back for the championship in September. So, so one thing that I decided was that it wasn't that range was a problem on its own, or that movement was a problem of its own, but it really we found a loophole or kind of a perfect convergence.
You could exploit it. Yeah.
Where it was like cheap to add range to your ranged attack, and it was cheap to add movement to your guy, and so that turned into this character who essentially sort of like yo-yoed, this 6x6 attack out there, or 4x6, and then he could boost it and whatnot. And so I realized like there needed to be like a cost balance basically that came into effect, so that the higher you wanted to crank the knobs on something, the less points you're going to have to spend on cranking the knobs on other stuff. So one of the things that I did was in the new character creation guide, and I think it's the same. Did you send them the Google Docs link for last season, or did we just put out a PDF?
I haven't put anything new out for this season.
But from last season, do you remember?
Yeah.
I think we sent you guys, if you back us on Patreon at a particular level, we sent you a Google document.
Remind
and a
me.
spreadsheet. I did not update the spreadsheet, but if you go on Docs, on Google Docs, there should be a link, and I just edited that document so you can look and see what's changed. He's looking it up.
Yeah.
At any rate, so now you have 100 points to spend on your stats, and you have 100 points to spend on everything else. So you can't basically like load up one really good attack and then buff like 2 things, like super buff those 2 things and ignore everything else. Like you can have one good attack and then kind of decide.
This is what we sent last.
The secondary thing. Yeah, so season 2 I've updated it. So if you're a Patreon backer and you have the link to the Monday Night Dungeon Fight character creation guide, I've updated that for season 2, and you can see some of the things that changed. One of the things that changed is you no longer have to increase your con mod for hit points, because everybody increased it basically the same amount. So it was like, well, if everybody's going to sink those points into Constitution just so they can get more hit points, and everybody ends up with the same amount of hit points, let's just give everybody 100 hit points and call it good. So that's flat. Like, you no longer have to pay for that. What Constitution, the role that Constitution now plays is, in addition to divine magic, which is fueled by wisdom, and arcane magic, which is fueled in intelligence, and psionics, which are fueled by charisma. We now also have blood magic, which is fueled by constitution. And it's an easy way to differentiate in the system without having to like invent this whole new what's blood magic? No, all magic basically works the same. Psionics,
Right.
divine casting, whatever, it all works the same. So I was like, I need to replace constitution with something. Why not make a thing called blood magic? And that way it's opposed by a constitution saving throw.
Okay.
So I thought that was kind of like a cool twist to kind of make Constitution still be meaningful as opposed to like being just your hit point.
Your hit points, yeah.
Sink. So your stats your stats are one pool of points, and then you got 100 points to spend on everything else. So that includes your attack, your AC. I introduced a new thing called Threat Area. So that's slightly different. It's a little bit more tweaky than in D&D. So in D&D, your threat area is your reach, right? Your reach with a melee weapon. But I'm like, that really penalizes your ranged fighters and your spellcasters because they're not going to have a melee attack, right?
Right.
So instead, I created this idea called Threat Area, this is just the area around you which you threaten. And if somebody walks through that and you want to cast a spell on them, like that's fine. Or if you want to shoot them with your bow, you have just as good of a chance of stopping them with an attack of opportunity as somebody who's got a greatsword. And also, I think it adds an interesting point of differentiation in the combat system, because if you want to have a reach of 2 or 3, that's fine, but you may only have a threat area of like 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm.
So just because you can reach out and hit somebody 3 away, that could be like a representation of you like moving your reaching out. That's your max attack, but you may not actually threaten that far out because
Right.
you have to strain yourself so much to make that attack. So it's an interesting way to kind of balance the system back and forth. So threat area got introduced. All of the attack, like ranged attacks and melee attacks, and all of the magic are now under one basically unified system for point buy. So magic still has like a few more stats, qualities that you have to buy if you want to so if you want a really big super boomer attack that covers a wide area, you're not going to be able to maybe make it as powerful or so there's still going to be some trade-offs in the magic area, but like all of the costs for all of that stuff are essentially the same, because I thought about it and it's like magic is basically just a ranged attack or a melee attack that has a couple of different knobs on it, but like melee and ranged attacks are essentially magic that only has a single target, so you're not paying the cost. You're not paying a cost on that end, so why not make it all kind of like fairly the same?
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that's different about magic is that you can't miss with magic, so that's still true. You can buy spell strikes. I will have so I also, the stuff that you can't see in the character creation guide is there's several things that I added in season 2. Like I defined all of the damage types. There's 12 different damage types that are specific damage types now. So there is bludgeoning, there is slashing, there is piercing, there's toxic, necrotic, radiant, psychic. I won't do the whole list, but fire, cold, acid, all that kind of crap that you would expect. But what that means is now it's going to be more important what you're resistant to, or at least you'll be able to be resistant to stuff and have it matter. Whereas it was like just fire was kind of like a hit or miss. There's more damage types. That means you can add more damage types to people's attacks.
Okay.
The traits have changed. I have not updated that sheet yet, so I'll come up with more examples of traits. If you guys want to make a character and you back us at the whatever level,
I think it's 10,
the level
$10.
where you have access to this, you want to make a character, email Dom or contact Dom, and then we'll work it out. So you're going to have. So the other thing besides just damage types that got specified is I also specified a list of conditions and what their effects are. Because last season, a lot of things that came up was like, oh, okay, you're blinded. You can't see anything, so you can't, you make attacks at disadvantage and attacks against you have advantage. Oh, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now on the player's guide, it's all defined like, okay, if you're blinded, this is what happens. If you're prone, this is what happens. If you are hobbled, so basically there's a condition now where all your movement costs double. Because I'm just trying to think of interesting ways that a condition can affect what you can do on the battlefield.
Yeah.
So I've defined a bunch of different conditions, and then there's actually different costs, like rage costs, to alleviate those. So if you're prone, it's free, right? Like, all you have to do is stand up. There's no actual, like, you don't have to pay any cost. But if you're poisoned, it's like 1 or 2 rage in order to get unpoisoned. And then last week you saw the condition of enervated, and I don't know. They were really like the thing that made that particular attack so powerful was it lasted multiple rounds. It was not that being enervated was so awful.
It hung around for a while.
And basically enervated was every rage action costs you an additional 1d6 rage tokens. So it was just a random number. I might just make it like it costs 1d6. It could cost you 1. It could cost you 6.
Yeah.
I don't know. And if you can't pay the price, then you got to pay the price in dice of damage or something. But the point of all that stuff is like now you can kind of have effects that like I wanted effects to have like a sliding scale. We did also, somebody said the parry rule was too powerful. That got out of hand. I did not. It was actually like as written, it was less powerful until they got so many rage tokens that they just started throwing coins at them. Mm-hmm. And I sort of ruled on the spot that it was like one rage token to parry, and it should have been 2. And then also it just like they were able to just like boost up the amount of parry, so that somebody would do a big super attack and do 10 dice worth of damage. They'd parry it for 9, and it'd be like at the end of it, they might have rolled 45 points of damage, and the guy's like, oh, I take 4. Yeah. Like that's not fun to watch. It's not fun to play. It's not. So both parry and resistance have been significantly nerfed for the rest of the season. Okay. So it's just 2d6 of parry. It costs 1 rage. If you want to do it, great. You're gonna reduce it by 7. If you have rage and resistance, they stack.
Here's my question.
Yes.
Can you parry lava anymore?
Well, I mean, it's that the trick about that is that got into a weird rules area for me, because it's like any magical attack under the regular system you can parry. So if I envelop you in an acid cloud, you can still parry it if you have a weapon or magic focus in your hand, right? Like if players are gonna like, I believe in giving players the opportunity to spend rage tokens, right? So in that case, like, here's the thing: parrying the lava was not a problem. Mm-hmm. It was the amount of parry that was going against the lava that was the problem.
Right.
So if it's capped at 2 dice and you're taking 10 dice, great. It's still
going to hit you. Yeah.
Yeah. So my thing is like, that could seem sort of heroic. Like you're fighting off the lava with your shield or whatever. Like, sure, but you're only going to you're going to negate a max of 12 points off of a 10 die 6. So maybe you're going to take 20 instead of 35 or whatever. Well, that's still a significant amount of damage when you've got 100 hit points. The lava effect that should have come into play was it should have been difficult terrain.
Yeah.
If you started your turn in the lava, like every square of lava that you move through should have cost you 2, and that way players would not have an incentive to wade into the lava to escape everybody else.
Right. Yeah, I think that was. I know that people were questioning that, even at the table when Alex was attacking and then he'd run away. People were like, "You're running through the lava to get away from me!" Like,
so that should have been difficult terrain. And then the other thing was, and somebody in chat made the suggestion that the Death Star that got dropped on the board should have had a scaling DC to get away from it, right? Yeah. So that would have. There were 3 fundamental issues with the season opener, and one was there was way too much parrying going on. Two, they were able to escape the Death Star all the time, which the first time we dropped that thing on the board, it was a DC 15 strength check, and almost everybody got sucked in. Like, one guy was able to escape it, on a regular basis, but everybody else was getting sucked in. So I thought it was going to be fine, and everybody resisted it. I don't know if it's just the way I built the characters or whatever, but so that should have scaled up. And then the third problem was I accidentally made a map that was was essentially one directional. It was this giant V.
Right.
And so if you were over here, there was no way for the guys over in this corner to come and get you. Like, if there had been a tunnel through the thing, or a portal on either side. Usually I'm pretty good about making areas that connect things together.
Yeah.
So that, you can step through this side and pop out on this side of the map. And I don't know, I just got away drawing that volcano.
It was a pretty good volcano.
It was a fun thing to draw, but
still needs to be signed by Alex, actually.
Yeah. So it did not but it created this thing where essentially he was over here, and so another thing that got tweaked in the rules is you're going to be able to double move from here on out. So if you don't take an action and you decide you want to rush the battlefield, you can do that if you don't take an attack.
Yeah.
So those were some, like, it's funny because I felt like really like solid on the tweaks that I'd made and stuff like that, and then just like these kind of like blaring issues just kind of came to light in our first session. I don't know that it's significantly affected the outcome. I think the three guys battling in the corner could have either made allegiances earlier or spread themselves out further. Like they all kind of decided to dogpile on each other right off the bat, and they sort of left an open area for Alex to go and basically kind of hide out.
Yeah, it was interesting because they made initial declarations of allegiance to each other, but there was never any real like teamwork going on.
Yeah,
no one was ever.
There was a
doing
little
anything.
bit of it, but they didn't really. Yeah, maybe the Death Star could. I think the Death Star. I think the Death Star. The easy fix there is just to increase the DC every round, and they just get sucked closer and closer and closer. It's just going to happen.
Yeah.
Even if you're a really strong character, at some point, a DC, if it starts at 15 and goes up by 2 every round, by round 3 you're looking at a DC 21 strength check. Half the time you're going to fail that. I do think there could be a thing maybe where it's like a pop-up gopher, whack-a-mole type of thing where, like, the evil gopher with the flamethrower pops up out of the hole around the map each time and like spray somebody with fire damage. So that could be fun. Loneliness damage if they're more than 10 squares away. Yeah.
There were some suggestions that came in, and I'll read a few of them for you. If a player, not you, rolls a dice outside the dice cam bowl, all dice are considered ones.
Ooh.
That was James V.
That's an interesting idea.
Yeah, and that will be much
very
harder.
Cruel.
With our new.
My only issue with that, how that impacts the play experience, is you're gonna see a lot of people like very carefully like drop their dice. And if there's one thing I want on Monday Night Dungeon Fight, I just want them to just like throw like I want the most violent dice experience possible, which is why I always throw out of the bowl.
I did reinforce the tripod and everything, so hopefully that will be better if
I'm gonna bring in like a little piece of cardboard to put underneath.
No, I have a bunch of cardboard that I've been meaning to build a little backstop.
This is like the saddest Dungeons and Dragons problem ever. Well, I can't roll in the dice tray. Sometimes they keep skipping out. Yeah.
I should have Hrothgar's Horde build us a little backsplash. Let's see. Ventros's giant axe should be called the DM's Lament.
Well,
that was actually my suggestion. Farquaad just put it in the put it in the thing.
I think parrying damage was the DM's Lament.
Yeah, that's true.
That's very clear.
The Lommel wall, and then there's the DC. Let's see. Tom rolls 2d6 and counts around the table of players starting at his left until he gets to the number rolled. The player he ends the count on now has to pull twice from the deck.
Oh, kind of a spin the spin the bottle. For
Pretty much,
thing.
yeah.
That would be fun. I'd be happy to put that in. I'm always up for more options to make them do pulls from that deck, just because that's such a fun thing. I do think I'm gonna like edit it before a session because I made the stack is so huge, it's a little bit unwieldy.
Yeah.
And I wasn't getting many traps coming up as I wanted, so I'm gonna make the deck a little more evil. But there's plenty of good stuff in there, so yeah, I'm gonna skinny it down and then kind of like change the mix from session to session.
Nice. And then rotating disadvantage, starting from Tom's left on each player's turn. That player has disadvantage. It does not have to coincide with their actual turn. They play in normal order, but if they are attacked or have to make a save, etc., they are at disadvantage, and it moves the next player in rotation at the end of the turn until it comes back to Tom twice.
So one of the things I think we could probably, if you guys have suggestions, I'm open to hearing, but I definitely want to like keep up with this idea that the qualifying heat has sort of like a meta objective, or objective besides just beat on each other.
Yeah.
So one of the things I was thinking is like escape, whatever, like escape the spaceship, and there's like turrets and security bots and stuff like that. And you have to get to like to one of the life pods before the ship crashes at the end of round 5, right? And on the way out, maybe you have to steal X number of things. But one of the objectives that could be super fun, either in the qualifier or maybe in the final, in the season finale, would be some sort of hot potato type of thing, where it's like, okay, you have essentially like the crown of command, and it allows all of your attacks do an extra 4d6 fire damage or necrotic damage or whatever. But while you're wearing it, you're at disadvantage on all of your attacks, and people have advantage on attacks against you.
Yeah.
And if somebody successfully hits you for X amount of damage, they get the crown. So it would be like a kind of like a tag hot potato type of thing. Like how long, kind of a King of Tokyo mechanic, where it's like how long do you want to stay in the hot zone type of thing. I think that could be like a fun objective spin, that kind of like goofs with the players.
I like that.
Yeah.
BSB Care just sent in this one. Split the deck in two and have the players pick a deck pre-game. One moderately good, one very evil.
I did think about color coding the cards, because I have different colored sleeves, right? This is all like homebrew stuff. So I did think about taking like all of the things that are rage related and sleeving them as blue. And seeing whether they would notice during the course of the game, like, oh, when I pull a blue card, it's a rage thing.
Yeah.
But you don't know, is it a good, is it going to be a rage booster or a rage drain or whatever? So.
I like the Crown of Command, but have it round 1 where the Crown of Command controls the wandering monsters. If no one has the crown, then GM controls the monsters.
Yeah, I like that idea too.
I like anything with the Crown of Command. Anything that relates back to Talisman.
No. Did you actually play the original version of the game?
I did, yeah. And that's the newer version.
Yeah, that's the new version of the game. Did you play the original version of the game?
Yes, I did.
Well, no wonder you have a beard, because that's how long it takes to play that fucking game. It
is not a fast game.
It is not, and you know what? It's
not even the new one.
It's the game of, I'm gonna take forever to build up all this power, and then go through all of these challenges, and I'm gonna go up there, and I'm gonna get wiped out by the fucking demon.
Yeah.
And now I'm dead, and I have to start over with a level 1 character. That was the worst part. Was like you didn't get your and you're like running to go get your stuff because it all dropped on that screen.
Right.
Talisman, the original, awful. And I say this from like fond.
Yeah.
Like I when they released, like they re-released the 3rd edition, which was basically like the 2nd edition with some crappy production changes, and I was like, oh man, I can't wait to get Talisman. Oh, we used to play this for hours. It's like, yeah, we used to play it for hours.
Yes, those bongs you hear are not the captain signaling us to return to our seats, but it's whenever you guys make a suggestion in Revlo, that's the sound effect that we get, which is nice and handy. Farquaad says any player, not character, any player considered to be running away gets shot, or if that's too harsh, shot with a Nerf gun.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a. I will say that one of the issues I have with that stuff is like Alex was just playing his strategy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and to me it's like that's legitimate. Like that's a legitimate strategy. So if you have a problem with him like hiding, the issues that those guys had was they were so far away on the map and they had so little movement they couldn't get to him. Mm-hmm. So it's not a problem with the player, because if they could have, one of those guys would have gone after him.
Yeah.
It was the fact that there were so many guys that were so close, and it was because you could only do a single move. It was so far to get over there that that issue is something that really rests on my shoulders, as opposed to something that players need to be punished for. Like, I just need to be more conscious of building in those types of kind of scenarios.
Right. No, I did not pick the sound, and there's apparently nowhere to make it the sound silent. So you're in for it now. Anyway.
Bong.
Bong. All right. I think BSB Care said random archers shoot 1/4 of the map for 46 damage at every round.
I will say that in Season 1, I almost always put in some sort of thing where chat could pay money to activate traps that would randomly go off throughout the dungeon, and you guys almost never bought it. So those chances were also there. But I think it's really an issue that needs to be solved through better incentives for objectives, for completing objectives, and better map design. And I think if people can do double moves, that'll help, right?
Yeah.
Because the issue in the first season was being able to move too much away, like there and back, being able to yo-yo.
Right.
So that's another one of the rules tweaks is you can only move, like you can't break up your move like you used to be able to do. So giving people a little more movement doesn't necessarily hurt that much. Did we cross them out on the Google Docs sheet?
Well, they were only active whenever you told me they were active.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I feel like they were active a couple of different times.
There was usually some sort of let's punish people randomly on the map that almost never got bought. So yeah, we didn't put traps out there last season.
Yeah.
So
yeah, James says we never needed to in the first season.
Right, because the main objective was to beat on each other.
Right.
And I mean, we could go back to that. I feel like it's a little more interesting round one to have a super objective, as well as you have the opportunity to beat on each other, as opposed to this kind of artificial segregation of you two guys, because you're sitting on the same side of the table, are now going to fight it out, and you two guys, because you're sitting on the same side of the table, are going to fight it out. I like the idea of there being some sort of a mini game essentially in the first round, and then a free for all.
Well, there sort of is by what the chat objective, right?
Yeah, well, that's the other mini game,
the
right?
secret objective.
Yeah, the secret objective. But to me, that's a fun sort of like bonus. Like you're gonna do all that stuff anyhow, right? Like you're gonna open barrels. It's just one of those things where it's like, I've already opened 2. like, should I keep opening barrels, because that might be a
That will figure
5,000 point bonus.
Right.
I'm not sure that I'm going to keep Rage Roulette. I don't know. It seems to get a little complicated in the middle of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of it. I was also very glad that it did not pay out at all in session 1.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know. That's a question. Is like, do we keep Rage Roulette, or do we replace that?
Yeah. What do you guys think?
With something else. Like, everybody has 100 hit points now, so I don't feel like there needs to be a trade-in for healing type of thing. I think you're just sort of stuck with it. And the players now know that up front, that there's no healing between bout 1 and bout 2.
Right.
So, I don't think we need to, like, in season 1, I would let people, like, heal themselves, but oftentimes that was because in round 1, somebody would score a critical or whatever, and they would just paste their opponent because they only had one guy to dogpile on.
Yeah.
And that was difficult to negotiate from like rules and fairness. Rage Blackjack. I'm going to write down Rage Blackjack.
No audio for the Rage Roulette last stream?
Oh, yeah. The first... That's because Twitch was just firing up, and we had a lot of problems with that.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll try it, or maybe we'll do some other sort of, like, gambling thing in the middle of it.
Mm-hmm.
I do kind of like the idea that they can take the tokens that they... the only trick about it is most people are... I've seen it go two ways. Like, you either have the kind of, like, traditional, conservative, cautious approach of, like, I'm going to bet 2. I'll bet this 1 on here and 1 on here. Or you have, the GM Mace approach, which is just like, put all of them on here.
Yeah.
We lost them all, and now I have none going into the final round.
Right.
I feel like I want there to be kind of like a happy medium in between there. For those of you who couldn't hear Rage Roulette, basically what happened was fairly straightforward. It was, I had 6 numbers. 1 did not pay out at all. Every other number paid out. Was it 3 to 1? I think it was. Or it might have been higher. Was it 5 to 1? I don't remember.
Yeah.
4 to 1. If you bet on an individual number, it had a significant payout. You could bet on a column otherwise, and it would pay out 2 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
So you could bet on 3 and 5 or 2 and 4, and it would pay out 2 to 1. You could bet on just the number 6, and that would pay out like 5 to 1. And then I rolled a single d6, and whatever it was going to land on was how it was going to pay out. The trick is, and I think we may have to like take Nick up on or find some poker chips, because knowing who was betting on which, again, was like a hassle. That was like, keeping track of that was not easy.
Yeah.
But if there's a different kind of gambling game like Rage Blackjack or whatever, I'm all down for that.
Yeah, that could be a lot of fun.
Like if you hit a blackjack, or maybe if you bust out, you have to do a pull from the deck instead.
From the very evil deck.
Yeah, the original Rage Roulette was just we had 30 numbers, and there were too many options. You were too likely to lose in the original. So, I think it worked better with just doing a D6. So we may stick with it and see what comes out of it.
Yeah, I think the other thing is that this game is, I mean, it's only been played, like what, 7 times?
Yeah, 7 times total.
Yeah.
We had a play test, we had 5 sessions, and then we started season 2.
Yeah. So it's still a work in progress. There's still things changing, but that's sort of the exciting thing. I think is that we can have these sessions with chat and sort of say, okay, what's working, what's not working, and kind of work on it. To me, it's one of the most exciting things that we do on the stream because it is so reliant on you guys out there being a part of the game, because we can easily just have everyone beating on each other and playing that, but having the interaction that chat can provide, I think, really makes it that much more dynamic.
Right.
But
I think it's interactive in a different way from our other shows. You know,
Yeah,
like our
absolutely.
other shows, it's very much like the players reach through the screen and become, a part of the storyline and alter the plot, and alter the outcome. And in this, it's more of you're riding along, like you're rooting for a particular champion or whoever you've backed or
Right.
whatever. So yeah, it's got a different spin on it, but that's intentional, you know.
Right.
So yeah, I guess part of my goals for season 2 was like, okay, we had a fairly, I felt like a fairly solid experience with season 1. We exposed a few rules tweaks and flaws and things like that. But we also discovered a lot of things about like what we could do to make this interesting. So for season 2 is like, let's take what was successful in season 1 and now reincorporate that and tweak it and make it keep making it more interesting.
Right.
And in some ways, actually, I feel like I simplified the system so that the players have fewer choices. They don't have quite as many different attacks. Like so you would see. In season 1, you would see people who had a really great melee and maybe a pretty good magical attack, like if they were a cleric. And now you either have a really good melee or a really good magic attack,
Right.
or you have a pretty good melee and a weak magic attack or whatever. I think some of that may kind of shake out differently depending upon how the new rage and parry rules work, but I wanted to kind of like streamline and simplify the players' choices. They don't necessarily. I don't know. I feel like there was stuff on the character sheets in season 1 that kind of got lost on some of the people playing.
Yeah.
It was like well, you didn't use this attack the entire time, and it's like there's just too much going on in the sheet.
Right.
So it's like why serve 3 different kinds of pie when you can only eat one slice?
Right. James suggests using different color poker chips for the different
Yes.
players.
Yes.
And then have them pay rage tokens at the end of each turn. BSB Care asks if we could have the players do a bit of an intro with a rage bonus to whoever has the best intro based on straw poll or any sort of poll, I suppose.
Yeah, that crosses into that territory of part of it is, I mean, Dom is monitoring the chat, but like loading up a favorite is one of the things that I've had to try and like work around in terms of like group incentives for things. That's something that I struggle with because we put a lot of XP on the line for this game, and admittedly, like at some point it's just XP, but when it if XP gets outrageous, then that sort of defeats the purpose of XP, right? So I do want it to kind of like have the feel and the fairness and the balance of an actual kind of betting event, regardless of the fact that there's literally airy, ethereal fantasy points on the line for that.
It's yeah.
So yeah, I hear you on. It would be nice to know the players a little bit more than the intro that we already get. I guess that also is a struggle that I have in terms of keeping the opening talk segments to be as like simple and streamlined as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it would be helpful for people at home to know, like, okay, Ventros has, this sort of like, he's a heavy melee fighter and he's resistant to, or he imposes disadvantage to people within 2 squares of him. Or I'm a monk. I'm a monk who is trained in the ways of flame, and I have this magical fire attack that I can do. Like, I think that would be helpful. And I like the idea of them basically kind of like doing wrestling promos on each other, but not every player
Can do that.
And I mean, like, we saw Gaurav come in for the finale, and like, he did a great promo. Like, that was terrific. But
and everyone betted on him, and then
right, and then he lost. But also, like, I want this show to kind of I guess I don't necessarily want to put people on the spot for role playing and have there be a disadvantage for not being the best role player.
Yeah.
That's something that I think is, it's Monday Night Dungeon Fight. We're not creating a story. There's, it's like, it's just sit around and roll dice and have fun.
Yeah.
And it gets tricky for me to go, okay, well, you're a better role player than he is. Having chat tell people that right off the bat. Like, it's already competitive in a way that's weird and unnatural for a role-playing game. I don't want to reinforce that too much by introducing game mechanisms. Like part of it is I don't want you guys to be able to pick favorites and then essentially sort of like get them in a position where they're tilted to win. But also, I don't want the players at the table to feel like they're not the chat's favorites. And honestly, like, they have no idea who's bet on who at the beginning. So,
yeah, James qualifies it by saying that they all get 2 rage tokens. Doesn't matter, but they have to try to do some sort of intro. Doesn't matter whether they're good or not. They all get the same amount of rage, but. Yeah, so right. I don't know. That doesn't. I don't think that necessarily changes it. I think it's still sort of the same. We've billed this to the players anyway as not a role playing heavy thing. It's more a little bit of strategy and just go in expecting to blow the snot out of your fellow man.
Right.
And that's how the game kind of works. So, but I understand wanting to know. What they can do, what their capabilities.
Maybe we should just build that part of it into, because I think that is useful information for you guys to have when you're trying to figure out who to back and whatever. Like, have each person say, like, what's your most common or most lethal form of attack. That would be fine.
Yeah.
The other part of it to keep in mind in terms of like writing up a promo or whatever, or coming up with some sort of promo, is that there is zero backstory or information or even there's no world attached to any of this.
Yeah.
So you're asking people to improvise essentially based off of a name and like the name of their attack power. And there are people who can do that, and there are people who would find that incredibly challenging. So
yeah. Yeah, it's I mean, if I had my druthers, it would be great during the 15 minutes. We would have, the last 5 minutes or something like that would have like a little pop up, and you would see the character, and it would give a little description of who they are and what their powers are, so that you would have it so that by the time we start live, we can have that, because a lot of people hold on to who they're betting on until they have met everyone.
Right.
So, and by the time we get around to finishing that, because chat is later than us, they only have a few seconds then to put in their votes. So, yeah, if we put in something during an intro or get it out there as quickly as possible, I think it would help chat lock in their votes.
Yeah, I mean, it's maybe a little more helpful to have chat know what the characters are as opposed to necessarily know who the people are as much.
Right. Yeah. I don't. Yeah. I don't think they need to know the player necessarily as much.
I don't know.
as-
I think it was a real advantage for people to know that Alex had only been playing D&D for 1 year.
Yeah. That's true.
Because the two people who bet on him made out like bandits.
Yeah. One of them was Sungrowler. So. Let's see. Yeah. Tiz Fuzzy says, yeah, the betting period is only about 10 minutes. About half the time you have no idea who anyone is before the betting is over. Reading over the season 2 sheet, I really like how you move the cunning strikes under the attack package cap of 50 points.
Yeah, so everybody can like just get like if you want to build in 1 cunning strike now, that's fine. If you want to, have 3 or 5, you got to pay the points for it. I'm sure there will be some sort of thief trait where like you just get 2 cunning strikes for free or something like that. So I have to go through and kind of come up with a list of traits, racial traits. But I feel like, and also one of the things that's going to be interesting is each character has a list of things that they can spend rage on, and now you can spend. It used to just be like 1 rage and then 10, but now you can spend like 2 or 3 rage.
Right.
So like to enervate somebody, you have to spend 3 rage to make it happen, and then they have to spend 4 rage to make it go away. So it's a costly attack, but
Right.
Yeah, it got all of that stuff got a little abstract in the last week in the premiere because there were so many rage tokens flying around that rage tokens sort of like it was an economy that was irrelevant at that point.
Right. Yeah. Everyone had like 20 rage tokens.
Once we got up to like 6 around, it was like forget it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. James suggests if they create a character and write their own intro for that character, and then have the person to read that intro.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. If you
I
want.
mean, the other thing that we could do is we could put together just a quick, I could put together a quick summary of who each of the characters are. We could drop that in a Google Docs link or on the Saving Throw wiki.
Yeah.
Tonight's bout features Ventros the Accursed. Here's his main attack and main defenses. Here's da 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 da. Like without spelling out the specific character sheet in excruciating detail.
Yeah.
We could definitely like put quick highlights of who you want to back.
Name what they do and their most powerful spell or whatever, right? Or action. That's it. MNDF Telebro is Monday Night Dungeon Fight. It's what we've been talking about for the last hour or so.
Welcome to Proficiency Check. I run Monday Night Dungeon Fight, so.
You know that, Telebro.
Yes, MNDF, because we have to save Twitter characters.
Yeah.
That's what it really is. Otherwise, it would just be all caps all the time.
Wait. Wait, Revlobot to do what every week?
To do it. Yeah. Revlobot.
Revlobot and D20 Robot are going to get in on it.
Honey, I have to tell you something. This isn't my choice, but Revlobot says every week. Yeah.
Give the basics of the characters. Yeah, nothing else. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
iDragon suggests name best offense and best defense. I see. Tiz Fuzzy. Okay, yes. Tiz Fuzzy officially puts in as a suggestion to do a intro every week.
Sorry. I see. Oh, so it would be a Revlobot command where they could go, who's playing?
Yeah, we have, for most of our shows, we have exclamation point characters, and that gives a description of who's playing. So we can do that for this, although it gets a little wordy in the little chat window to have the whole description of that. We don't really have formatting necessarily in
Well,
in a
so
chat.
so I know underneath we kind of have a standard like
Yeah.
orange, blue, green, or whatever. Like, could we do something that would just be like, if I wanted the description of the orange character, I could just do exclamation point orange, and it would come up with
Sure.
a
Yeah.
description for like, are those commands reserved or?
No, it's no. When D20 Robot takes off, which it's taking off in September 1st. D20 Robot starts.
You guys, have you heard about this D20 robot?
Yeah.
It is taking off.
It is. It is just gonna be the bee's knees. But the great thing about that is that we can put in as many commands as we want. So the problem we have now is MooBot has a limited amount of commands unless we pay them money to add more commands. So the more spread out we have, if we have
Right.
one for the orange and one for the, then
Yeah.
our economy of commands goes away.
Gotcha.
So we'll be able to do that eventually, but not right now. So now it'll probably just be with characters, or we can link to a Google Doc always, and that has all the information. So
Yeah, I mean, maybe we just do bang characters and then it just pops the link.
exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
that's something we can do. Got it. Yep. So yeah, we'll have individual ones later on, but for now it will just be a link. But if you do create a character, feel free to write an intro.
Yeah, you
And
can. I mean,
We can put that in. We can put that in somewhere. We can have
Yeah.
someone read it if they want to. But absolutely, like, I don't see why not.
I will say, like, the characters that got created last season definitely had like flavor and suggested an attitude and a world to them. In ways that were out of the box, they were great. So
The lunch lady that Keeganis made.
that's right. That's right.
I'm sad that she never made it any further. But
Drunella Dizzlebottom, was it Dizzlebottom or Drizzlebottom?
Drizzlebottom, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Erika Ishii's character. That was
Yes.
great. But yeah, that's a lot of fun. So, what else? What else? You have questions for us, Tom?
Do I have questions?
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm not sure. What do we have? Like, do we have how late do we usually go?
9:30.
9:30. So we got
Yeah.
45 minutes. So if you guys have questions or suggestions about Monday Night Dungeon Fight, anything, whether it's why are the rules this way, or why did you incorporate this, or you have an idea about something that you think would make the game more interesting, go ahead and drop those in chat. And if on the flip side, if you just have general questions about your game or DMing or Gen Con, those are all areas where we both have expertise. Two brains are better than one. Also, I just like to talk about stuff that I consider myself an expert on, so I just thought I would drop that out. So if you want to talk about politics or the price of office supplies, back to school sales are starting. Watch your weekly flyers for Staples and Office Depot, because it's a good time to get index cards, 50 cents a pack. If you're not using index cards to plan your games, you're not planning your games right.
Yeah, hopefully you guys are all playing
So.
Microscope, and you have to have index cards for that, at the very least. When are you going to do a Kickstarter for the Rage deck?
I think there needs to be like a set of Rage rules. I think that would be a fun Kickstarter, actually. Like, it would probably be fairly simple to execute. I think we would consider maybe doing it as a print-on-demand thing through drive-through stuff. I don't know when, but I like that idea.
We have many ideas that we want to do Kickstarters for, but
we got a question from BSB Care too, but just to kind of like close the loop on this thought, one of the things that I like about the Rage mechanic is that it's different from a standard like critical hit deck or critical fail deck.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that you can either bolt onto your game and use, and kind of have this fun token economy that's going alongside your game,
Yeah.
and have it have kind of a dramatic impact. And I think I think also like players doing, I think players like doing a pull from a deck, but like it's a fairly it's a fairly standard discussion of like, oh, I got the deck of many things, and everybody's excited and then also mortified at the same time. like so many GMs that I know, D20 Monkey, Brian Patterson just brought it up last week. Like, does the deck of many things ruin your campaign?
Yeah.
And I think like overwhelmingly it probably does. But on the other hand, like the stakes are so high when you pull from that deck of many things that it's like it's just you have a visceral experience of like, I could trash my character right now, and yet I could get 1d4 wishes, like I could gain a level instantly. I could have thousands of gems and jewelry. Like the payoff is so great and the risk is so high that it just makes it this fantastic play experience.
Yeah, it's the classic gamble, right? It's just it's so easy to drop that in and then have that be what people are fixated on. And there's so much mythology revolving around a deck of many things type of item,
right,
that you can't help but be drawn to doing something like that. But it also,
and so having it in more of like a limited scope, like not as dramatic, not as drastic, but something that you could add into your game, like players like that opportunity to like just the physical play experience of pulling at random from a deck of cards that has some good things and some bad things. I personally, it's something I personally love to both administer and also like to be a part of. Like, oh boy, I hope this is a good one.
I mean, it's great. It's great to watch. It's like, oh, you want to pull? Okay, here you go.
Right.
Let's see.
So BSB Care had a question about the rage costs. Yeah. So there are some other changes in the rage economy. So the most significant one is that there are now you can spend different levels of rage. So before it was like, it was kind of weird. It was a little because I was feeling my way through the different conditions and the different damage types. Sometimes it was like, oh, for one of your cunning strikes, you can add 2d6 fire damage. And then somebody else, it would be like, you can spend a rage token and add 2d6 fire damage. It's like, well, how come that guy gets it for free and I have to spend a rage token? So now, like, I've standardized, like, any time that you add damage onto an attack, it costs rage, right? So that's important. Like, okay, if you want to buff the power of your attack, you're going to have to lay rage on the table. That's got to happen. The other part of it is that now the status effects have different levels of cost to inflict. So like you can spend a rage to poison somebody, but they can spend a rage to clear that thing. People can be essentially restrained. I think I called it something else. I didn't bring, unfortunately, like I was like, oh, I'm going to print all this stuff off, and then I forgot it at home. But you know what? Maybe I can bring it up on my phone.
Oh, there you go.
It's the power of the Google Doc.
We have these magic devices in our pockets.
Ugh, yes.
Chat's devolved into politics. Not getting into it.
I said something wrong. Guys. We don't have to talk about politics.
The back to BSB Care's point, Chris got a deck of many things, and we never did anything with it. He never pulled anything.
I was not there for that. So look, if I had been there, it would have been a different story. Where's my sheets?
And then his character turned evil.
This is like.
Fuckwad says your stuff is still on the printer at work.
Yeah, unfortunately,
work is your home.
Work is where my dog lives. All right. No, it's not the chaos. What? Oh, I'm in sheets. I'm not. I need to be in docs.
Yeah.
This is
Rookie
making for
mistake.
some great television. Here it is. Ding ding. All right, got it.
Hey Daniel, thanks for watching us.
Oh.
Daniel asks over on
All right.
YouTube. He just started playing D&D 5. What do we think the best starter class is and why?
The best starter class. So the question is the best starter class for you to play. I like Barbarian, but I think probably the best starter class is Fighter.
I think it's the easiest. There's no like super special powers or anything that you have to. You just go out and
you go and hit stuff.
Hit stuff.
Yeah, and it's not. It used to be a lot more sophisticated, where like being a fighter, you actually had to know a bunch of tactics and how to, how to move strategically and stuff like that. And 5e is so much more streamlined and straightforward that I think playing a fighter is probably like the simplest option. And if you want to keep it simple, when you get to level 3, you can take the I believe it's the champion class path, martial class path, and that just gives you an expanded critical range, and you don't have to like do any resource management or anything like that. So I like to give the fighter to the new player. I think that's like simplest, straightforward. You know exactly what you got to do, and you're pretty good at doing it. And almost every other class has some sort of spells, and that very quickly becomes overwhelming for a first-time player. So I would not recommend that you necessarily play a wizard or a bard or a druid or a cleric or a sorcerer or a warlock. So it doesn't leave you a lot of options. Even the paladin starts to get spells after a few levels. So stick with fighter, and then just kind of like if you can get other people who have experience, just kind of sponge off of them, but also don't let them railroad you into like playing your character a certain way or telling you what you have to do. Try and play your character that seems the most fun. Just keep in mind that Dungeons and Dragons, except for Monday Night Dungeon Fight, is a cooperative game, and
right.
The things that you do have an effect or consequences for the rest of your party. So you want to all succeed together, rather than being the guy who's a troublemaker who's like, well, that guy insulted me, so I punch him in the face. Like, don't be a team player is what it comes down to.
Right. I have nothing to add. That's fighter is always my go-to if it's a new system or anything, whether it's D&D or not. I always go with the who's the melee, easy starter pack basically. But that's not to say you might want to be the spellcaster or whatever. But those do take a little bit more luxury with your prep time. You need to be looking at those because they like Tom says, they have resource management. There's lots of stuff involved with that, and it can be a little overwhelming. And I think a lot of new players go in going like, I want to sling fireballs, and when you start looking at it, you go, oh, you mean I can't cast a fireball at first level, and
right,
I'm stuck with burning hands, and I can't, this and that, the other thing, and then you start going, it's too much.
Right.
So
I think a good alternate choice is Barbarian. Barbarian has like some fun abilities that has a little bit of like, well, I'm gonna rage, and that has some game effects. So that's a fallback. If you like the idea of being the burly bare-chested fighter who doesn't wear armor, who just runs around and frosts at the mouth. Again, be a team player, because that character, you can get
unruly.
Yeah,
fast.
You can fall into the trap of playing them as just this one-dimensional kind of like walking id with an axe. And most games that I have played in or that I run have a little more sophistication and nuance with the plot, rather than just run in a room and punch out the first guy that you see.
Right.
That kind of game is fun, but you have to kind of play the game that everyone is playing, as opposed to the game that you absolutely want to play. That's just, It's like going to a dinner party, you know? Like, you have to eat the food that's there. You can't go, well, nobody brought my favorite kind of beer, so I'm going to throw the punch bowl on the floor. Like,
right.
That's not the way it works.
And you can always multi-class if you decide later on you want to do something else. You can always change it up and, decide to start running a spellcaster or something like that.
Or even just ask your DM, I mean, the nice thing about, like, in D&D Adventures League, you have the first 4 levels to do whatever you want with your character. Like until you get to level 5, if you want to, from week to week, go back and rebuild your character as a bard or a druid or whatever, like, you can do it. So if you get, a couple months in and you're like, I think it would be fun to try a spellcaster, maybe your DM will, be willing to... there's a couple different things. You can either change your character and see if your DM will let you change to a different character, or another great way to maybe kind of like split the difference is maybe your DM will give you a magic item or some sort of like, wand or something that you can use on a limited basis that has a limited complement of spells, so that you don't have to get into all of the, how many second level spell slots do I have today? Right. So if you say, well, I'd like to try playing a magic using character, but can we find a way that I just have like a certain set of spells that I get familiar with and I use them a certain number of times? Like, the great thing about like a wand of magic missiles is it has up to 5 charges, and you can spend 1 to 5 charges, and when the charges are gone, you can't use the wand until the next day when you get 1d4 plus 1 charges back. So that might also be a way you could talk through with your DM, like, I'd like to try some spellcasting stuff, but I don't want to run a whole character. Is there any way maybe we could I could find some sort of item that would help me learn the system without overpowering the game.
Yeah.
Or overwhelming me with too much information.
Right.
So I don't have the document on my phone. I thought I had uploaded it to Google Docs. I didn't. I'm sorry about that. But it's basically, there's a rage economy mostly for different conditions. So like adding damage is at the bottom, parrying damage is at the bottom, and then you might do 3 to blind someone. 3 rage to blind someone. I think 4 or 5 is where it tops out. So it's basically to recognize the fact that there are certain conditions that are far more debilitating than other conditions. So, for instance, being hobbled, where you can only move, or all your movement costs double. Well, that's annoying, but it doesn't affect your ability to attack, make attacks, or be attacked. It just means that you're essentially slowed, right? Whereas being dazed, where you have disadvantage on making attacks, you can't make attacks of opportunity, and also anyone that you cast a spell on has advantage on their saving throw. Like, that's a pretty significant condition. So it costs a little bit more to clear that condition, but it also costs more to inflict that condition. So basically, it's a way of mitigating some of these powers so that they can't just do it every single round without any cost attached to it. Now, again, some of that broke down in the first session because the rage tokens, we got too deep into the fight, and the rage tokens just got way too much. But I think you'll see people try and think a little more strategically about when they use those attacks.
I hope that answered that question.
Yeah, I mean, without having the actual document in front of me, I can't really walk through it for you. I will when I update the sheet. You'll see what the conditions are, and you'll see kind of like what the trait packages look like, and the rage bonus power kind of packages look like. Because I think those are going to stay as a package. They're not going to be like a pick from this menu. If they end up being a pick from this menu, there's going to be like a bunch of level 1 powers, a bunch of level 3 powers, and maybe like a level 5 one, or just like pick 2 level 1s on a level 3 or something like
that. Yeah, so we were talking about Monday Night Dungeon Fight, which is our every other Monday night stream that Tom Lommel hosts and created. If you have questions about Monday Night Dungeon Fight, bring them on. If you have questions about anything else, I have a question about Gen Con.
About Gen Con.
We, as many as you know, and it pops up in our Twitch chat every once in a while, we are going to Gen Con.
Far too often in our Twitch channel for my taste. I would like to have that message replaced by a nice bardic song.
No, you wouldn't. This is not the Tom I know. So we are doing Barky's Brigade live at Gen Con. We'll be recording an episode there just for folks at Gen Con, and then later on we'll upload it to YouTube if we feel generous.
And by if we feel generous, what we mean is if all of the technical quality things work out and it doesn't totally, we didn't have to broadcast it on a Facebook Live.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Over somebody's like weird 3G or 1X data connection.
Which is entirely possible. But we will be recording it. And it's going to be a lot of fun. We have prizes to give away. We have Amy's going to be singing songs live. It's going to be pretty cool. And it's only $2. $2 to get in. We don't see that money. That money doesn't come to us.
No, that goes to Gen Con.
That goes to Gen Con. So
it's a lot of work putting on a convention for 62,000 people.
Yeah. Who'd have thunk?
Trust me.
But if you are going, or we hope to see you. If you're not going, tell your friends that might be going, because we'd love to see you guys hang out, and we have lots of cool things to give away. But my question is to you, Tom. What are you most looking forward to this year at Gen Con?
What am I most looking forward to? I am looking forward to, like, I'm only going to be able to make a brief appearance at the Saving Throw live game, so I will not be sitting in for Barky's Brigade, which honestly I wish I would, because like I do enjoy, first of all, I just didn't, like, as an actor, I enjoy live performance, like, as much as I'm pursuing a career on screen and doing commercials and TV and all that kind of stuff. It's very surgical doing that sort of acting.
Yeah.
It's very much like, okay, how am I going to construct this moment? And then they yell cut, and you do it again a bunch of times, and then they yell, okay, we're moving on, and then you have literally 45 minutes to think about the next thing that's going to happen.
And you have no idea what happened before.
And then then literally like
work?
6 months later, somebody goes, "Oh my God, I saw you. That was great that I saw you in that thing. Like, what else have you got going on?" And you're like, "What else?" I don't know. It's the experiences are so isolated and disconnected from what's happening in your real life that it's that being able to sit in front of a live crowd and say something that you genuinely know has an effect, and you get that immediate feedback of like, that was a groaner, or whatever.
Right.
When being able to pull off a great line or just have a wonderful character moment in the game is really, like, for me personally, just genuinely rewarding. Like, it's one of the things I love about improv and live theater in general. So, like, I'm looking forward to, like, seeing you guys there for Barky's Brigade and or being at a panel or whatever. Like, I like to, I guess part of it is, the whole ego stroke thing aside of, like, oh, I can't believe that you do this or whatever, and like, whenever we hear, like, oh, you've inspired me to try this game, or we saw this and you played it and it was really fun, or you just generally, like, you guys, like, continuing to support us is really gratifying, right?
Or making making
an awesome love crumpet.
Yeah.
Are we showing it right? Is that more parallel? What's more?
No, closer to me.
Right? More? I don't know what's
then like that. There you go. And then bring yours down. Bring yours down. Down. There you go.
I feel like we're hanging a painting.
Yep.
Okay, great. We'll be Dungeons and Dragons married by the time this is over.
Legally binding in 3 states.
So sure, I mean, I'm not gonna deny the fact that there's a certain aspect of satisfaction that comes from being getting recognized or getting approached or whatever. I'm always happy to meet the fans, but also like, I mean, there are people who have told me that I've ruined tabletop gaming. They're actually not people I'm interested in meeting face to face, but that's a whole different story. But also, like, I feel like, you know, there's such a wonderful this is my 32nd year in a row. It might be
my third.
Yeah, I think this is 30. Gen Con 18 was the first one that I went to. Let's just, you guys Google it, do the math for me. I appreciate it. Just remember that 18, that's year 1, that's not year 0. So yes, I've been going to this for a long time, and the con has changed a lot since the first one I went to.
I'm sure.
But you know, gaming is fundamentally I was brought there as a young child and left in a basket full of D20s and floated it on the river of Mountain Dew that was poured in the gutters of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And fortunately, I was taken in by a rather loving couple who decided that they would raise me as their very own baby nerd. And here we are, 32 years later. So the point being, I think gaming is a great communal experience, and there's so many different things that you can only do at Gen Con. Games that are premiering, games that you can try, things that you just can't do in your regular home game. I mean, admittedly, like, I get to do stuff and screw around with gaming, with Saving Throw Show in ways that I wouldn't normally inflict on my home players. Like, my home game of D&D that I play twice a month is like pretty straightforward, right? It's basically, it's not, you know, you would expect some sort of gonzo off the rails, like, I get to do that with Saving Throw Show. So my regular D&D game is pretty much regular D&D. I use maybe a lot more props than the average person does, but it's pretty straightforward. So I guess, you know, the fun thing about Gen Con for me is not only is role playing a community game of 6 people creating a story together and creating their own little microculture of, remember that time when your thief found that, you know, secret door at the back of the castle and we snuck in through the catacombs, and you know, and the cleric didn't turn the wraiths in time and we almost all got life drained, you know, like so you have that microculture going on. But then you like multiply that by literally 12,000, and all of those people are there with different variations of those same stories.
Right.
And you're able to. So, you know, in a lot of ways, it's like it's just an event that it's hard to pin down one thing that you can look forward to.
Sure.
I will be hosting Nazcrag, which is like a completely like role-playing heavy, zany, puzzle-solving, very story-driven type of game. We have a charity round, which is just a one-off. So if you've never played before, I encourage you to try that. I mean, like, Nazcrag tends to be like goofy, but also like requires some brain power to like do the puzzle solving and stuff like that. It's a more, oh boy, like, I don't know, this is gonna put a bad taste in some people's mouth, but it's like a theater major's approach to putting a gaming session together, where it's like okay, this character is like Elvis. He's a bard who essentially thinks he's Elvis. Boom, like, do the southern accent, like filk your own songs, like, go for it. You know, this character is, you know, somebody totally, you know, like some other stereotype that you might recognize.
Right.
But, you know, you're all playing very strong characters. You have a definite, like, role-playing hooks. And there is a story and a plot line for you to explore, as opposed to just a series of chambers to open and kill stuff with us. You can do that, like, in your home game. Or you know, in any, like, on your PS4, if that's what you're on your phone, if that's what you're looking for.
Right.
So I will be there like most of my time. In fact, the reason I'm not sitting in a saving throw is it's the same night as the final round of Nazcrag, and I have to get everybody assigned to their judges and sent off to their tables to play Nazcrag, the big final round of the tournament. We have a great lineup of sponsors. Paizo always sponsors us. Monte Cook Games is sponsoring us. We're getting stuff from Atlas Games, Gaming Paper, Green Ronin. I don't think I can run down everybody, but we usually have a great lineup of people supporting us. I'm sure Evil Hat will be kicking in some Fate stuff. So it's it's a really fun, different kind of event. So that's what I'm mostly involved in is Nazcrag.
Yeah.
As I have been for most of the past, I don't know, ever since Gen Con basically moved to Indianapolis, so 10 years or whatever it's been. Like,
yeah, it's
I've
been
been
about 10, 12 years.
Before that, I was a player in it. So yeah, that's. To me, it's just like I've got friends who live in Indy, so the whole like housing and hanging out is like kind of taken care of. I don't have those worries, and I know that's a big headache for a lot of you, but so it's part kind of like regular vacation, a lot of working vacation, and then like I always take one day off afterwards, like kind of like Sunday afternoon and Monday.
Yeah.
I just hang out with my friends and we play whatever new games we bought. And we drink beer and we catch up on our sleep and we relax and like let our voice kind of like recover and then it's dive right back into the thick of things here in LA when I get back.
Yeah.
What are you looking forward to, Dom? What could you not be looking forward to?
I know, yeah. It's
but I feel like you have a little more time in your calendar. I mean, it's gonna be. You've got the whole crew there. Do you feel like you have to babysit the Barkeys Brigade crew? Because I feel like that's a task you should not necessarily shoulder solo.
No, I've encouraged them to go find their own things to do, although I have set up some sort of team events. We are doing True Dungeon
You're
this
doing
year.
True Dungeon. I have done that, I think 2 or 3 times, and I wish I could do it more.
Yeah. I haven't done it yet because the way I understand it, it helps to have a group of people that you know rather than a group of people you don't know, because solving a lot of the riddles and problems and stuff is a lot much easier. But
working together. Yeah.
So this is the first year we've had multiple people going from the crew, so I am excited to do that. Yes, I'll be throwing a bucket of water on Sean and Ben. That's going to be exciting. Gonna play a game called Goonies and Ghostbusters.
Goonies and Ghostbusters.
Yeah. Which it's basically those two universes. You are either a Goonie or a Ghostbuster, and you are doing that. But that one sounds very, very interesting.
It's funny because somebody on Twitter today suggested that Stranger Things, the new Netflix show, is essentially a mashup of Goonies and Ghostbusters.
Yeah, it's
with some other a few other shows thrown in, but
yeah, it is. Yeah, if you're not watching Stranger Things, definitely check it out because I think you guys would like it. I'm sure most of you have seen it already. If you haven't, just watch the first 15 minutes of it. There's a great D&D thing. If you play D&D in the 80s, it's immediately recognizable.
I wasn't around back then.
I know, you were too young.
I don't know.
But actually, I mean, it reads like any D&D game ever. They really don't change throughout the years. But anyway. So anyway, yes, I will talk about the new bot, iDragon, in 1 minute.
Is there anything on your wish list that you need to pick up at the con that you're like, I want to try and, not necessarily like, oh, this is a con exclusive and I gotta get it here and now, but like, is there something in your gaming kit where you're like, oh, I could really use?
I think the only thing that I'm really interested in is the new Shadowrun, which is, you laugh.
I laugh because we
go back and forth
every
on this,
time that we sit down to talk about Saving Throw Show. We talk about Shadowrun.
Yeah, but they are doing a rules light version of Shadowrun.
Okay.
And they're apparently debuting some of it at Gen Con, and so I'm very, very interested to see what that looks like.
Are they taking their own system and streamlining it, or is it doing like a Powered by the Apocalypse thing, or like are they doing like a Fate reskin?
No, it's I think it's their own system, but retooled. Yeah, I haven't looked too much. Honestly, the whole thing, like Gen Con is so massive, and I try to read, I go to Reddit or I go wherever to try and like find out what people are looking forward to, like, oh hey, this guy's running this game or whatever.
Right.
And I can't, it's just too much for me. I can never keep up with it. Last year I had a really great experience where I played I'm going to screw up the name, Tunnels and Trolls.
Yeah.
Tunnels and Trolls.
Old school.
Yeah, with Jim the Bear Peters, which was like amazing. Like I was just like, I want to play this game because it's old school gaming, and I've never played it before. And I sat down and he's like, yeah, I wrote this module. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, you've talked about going to Gamehole Con.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, I got to go. I mean, I go every year, but I went and me and my buddies played in an AD&D game with Frank Mentzer.
Oh wow.
And I mean, you want to talk about throwback? It was like he knows all of the AD&D rules.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And he like drops you right into the thick of it, And it was crazy stuff where it was like my thief got knocked unconscious, and he's like, oh, well, it's a good thing you're not a wizard, because you would have had to make a system shock roll to see if you retained any of your spells. And I'm like, what is happening? System shock roll? Yeah. So if you decide to go this year, definitely try and, I don't know. His games may already be all filled up.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm a little late on that, but yeah, I think some of that is just a really cool thing about a lot of gaming conventions, but especially some of the big ones and the ones kind of in that area where a lot of those guys live. But just the opportunity of playing a game with the person who designed it, or worked on some aspect of it, not even just old games, but brand new games. You can go to the Open Gaming
Games on Demand is a
Games
great
on Demand.
way
to
get an intro to something like that. Is definitely something I would recommend if you've well, I've heard about Fate, but I've never played it. This is your opportunity to go and play in a game that's probably run by somebody who knows the system fairly well.
Yeah.
Games on Demand, I don't think those GMs sign up for systems that they are not confident in running.
Right.
Like if you go to a booth and somebody's giving a demo, or you run into somebody in the hotel lobby, then you're kind of taking your chances. But I think Games on Demand is generally, my understanding from the way that the sign up system works is I know this system, I can run a game in this system.
Yeah.
I will say I'm picking up my campaign coins from the Kickstarter, so I'm going to get those and maybe buy some more. They have metal D20 dice that they're coming out with, so I gotta get on that the first day before those sell. And I signed up for the Codenames Pictures, which is the new version of Codenames.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick that up while I'm there. Those are, just off the top of my head, a couple things that I'm putting in my little nerd kit.
Yeah, I always check out whatever the vampire and werewolf, one night werewolf and one night vampire. I don't have them there, but I think Bezier Games. I always check out what they're doing. Boss Monster, check out those guys. Yeah, just Fantasy Flight. I'll go through whatever they have.
Their booth is always huge.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Question about the bot. Yes, iDragon. So D20 Robot is a new bot. It's based off of Ankbot, and essentially it does everything. It does everything that MooBot does. It does everything that Revlo does. Although Revlo, I was just telling Tom about this. The once I decide to move away from Revlo because it kind of does everything that it does, a lot of things that we want, but it does it all kind of janky. They decide that they have a way to reward YouTube subscribers and Twitter followers with XP, which is great. That's awesome. Thanks, guys. It's a little late now. but there's a way. The cool thing with Ankbot is that it's programmable, so we can actually create a lot of rewards and a lot of ways to make it a little bit more engaging for you guys out there, and for us to, like with Monday Night Dungeon Fight, we can do a lot more with the betting system. We can do more with the commands that you guys can give, and things like that. It's way more flexible for us. The thing is, it's this very steep learning curve. I mean, it's the programming isn't super hard, but you kind of have to sit down and go like, okay, what is it? It's a logic problem, and you have to figure, okay, if this, then that, this happens. So that's taken me a little bit to get into, but the outcome and the final product, I think, is going to be much more flexible for us. It also means you can enter in whatever the hell you want, lower XP, capital X, lower P, whatever, and it will come up with the thing. So no more of that stupid case sensitive business. Yeah. So the thing is, the question gets asked about what's happening with XP. So there's no simple way for me to port all of the XP from Revlo over to the new bot. There's no export function, there's no CSV that I can download or anything like that. So the XP that you guys have currently in the system for Revlo is basically going to get wiped away. So spend it. I encourage you to spend it. If you are a Patreon backer, you will continue to earn XP, and in August you will earn XP for both Revlo and D20. So you'll have that XP. So the XP and D20 robot you'll be earning as you go, but spending it will only be with Revlo for the month of August, and then in September it switches over entirely. Revlo will not be usable anymore. Everything will go to D20 robot. So you'll see that your levels, if you don't spend a lot of XP in August, you'll see that your levels will go down significantly because you just haven't gained as much as you used to have. But it will continue to go, and Patreon backers will continue to get their XP just as they do every month. But yeah, that's the only big thing I think that's happening, is that the XP is going away. But it's XP. You'll get it back, and you'll still be able to gamble. You'll still be able to do all that, and we'll have mini games which you can play while you watch. So there's going to be those things too. Lots of different ways to get your XP and build it.
I'm trying to think of what kind of. I know we talked about. I pitched you something with Monday Night Dungeon Fight, and you were like, "No, we can't do that in Revlo bot." Do you remember what it was?
There were a number of things like that. I think one I know was with the betting was I think if we could scale kind of the payout or something like that, and you can kind of do that with Ankbot.
Is there a way to have like first half and second half betting? Was that what it was? I don't remember what there was some sort of thing where I was like. It was some sort of betting structure, and I can't remember what was going on. And you're like, no, there's basically like they pick one, and like,
yeah. I don't know multiple betting. I'm not entirely sure with multiple betting. I think there might be a way to do that in there.
I feel like there was something else that I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I can run multiple instances of betting, but I'm sure there's a way to try and work that out. It's extremely flexible, and the thing is that there's a massive user base, and so a lot of people have the API, for lack of a better term, for Ankbot. So a lot of people have already done things like that. So if there is something specific that you want, someone probably has a code for it. You will still earn XP, but it's going to be on a different bot. We're still tweaking that. The other things that you can do with Ankbot is that we can reward Patreon backers and moderators with a different payout structure of XP. So if you back us on Patreon, whether $1, $25, however many dollars a month, you will be getting a special the subscriber bonus to your XP. So you'll be getting a bonus that way, in addition to what you get just being as a Patreon subscriber every month. And then as a moderator, just as a small token of saying thanks, you'll also get a bump in your XP. So there's that as well. But that's just another one of the things that you can do. But we can do polling from within D20 Robot. We can do gambling, betting from within D20 Robot. So everything is sort of confined in there. So it makes it a lot more centrally located. Plus, we don't have to turn it on as long as that computer is on. Because it runs locally, it doesn't run off the internet or anything. As long as that computer is on, whenever we're live, Ankbot kicks in. Okay. So it's running right now, and we're not even at the studio. The computer at the studio is there, so it's running right now. So that's another great thing. We never have to kick Revlo to make it start or anything like that. It is actually Ankbot, yes, but I've named the bot D20 Robot. That's one of the things you have to do. Yes. Oh, cool, James. Yeah, I will let you know. Yeah, it's really probably anyone who has any sort of programming knowledge, it's going to be really simple, but not. I used to do HTML back in the day.
That is not programming.
That is not programming.
That is not programming.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, it's that's it. Yes, if you have a block of text to send me, Dungeon Master email address is the best way. DungeonMaster@SavingThrowShow.com is the best way to get in touch with us, or Twitter, or Facebook, or whatever.
Yes.
But if it's a block of text, probably not Twitter. That's probably not the best.
I don't know. Just generally not Facebook.
yeah. Facebook, I will probably want to use it. So I hope that answers some of your questions about the robot. I'm sure we'll be talking about it more as we go on, but essentially it will be like what we have now, but hopefully better.
It will be up and live for the finale of Monday Night Dungeon Fight, which will be taking place in September. I believe the 12th is the scheduled finale of season 2, which suddenly doesn't feel so far away anymore.
I know, it's coming fast. So we're just got to wrap it up now, but I really want to thank Tom for coming on and talking more about Monday Night Dungeon Fight. If you are a $10 backer or higher on Patreon, you can build a character and send it in to us, and we will use it on the show. Yep. We will assign it to a player, and they will play it. And
BSB Care made one last year, and that ended up being our champion. So, stress test the system.
Yeah. Yes, it will be challenging to code, but extremely rewarding. It is just way more features than Moobot or Revlo can do. So yeah, I'm very excited about it. I want to thank you guys for joining us, for your questions on YouTube and Twitch. Thanks very much. We were testing out, what you didn't know is I was testing out Joycaster instead of Restreamio. And Joycaster seemed to be working just great. No dropouts, so that was really good. So that's your little behind the scenes talk of the day. Anyway, very happy about that. So tomorrow we have Adventures in Adventuring with Jordan Callerman, where he plays old school point and click RPGs like King's Quest. And then hopefully Tyler and Henry will be streaming some, I don't know, Lego game or something later on in the day. Then Wednesday we have Barkey's Brigade, and Thursday is Dark, and then Friday we have Black Bag, our Call of Cthulhu game, and Saturday we have Dark Sun, which is run using the Dungeon World game system. A whole lot of fun, and another one that is like we have almost an entire mini game for chat to play with.
I love the idea that you can become a sorcerer king and move the pieces of the world around. I think that's great.
Yeah.
And then on Monday, a
We're
week
back.
from tonight, we're back with Monday Night Dungeon Fight. So we will have our second qualifying heat.
4 new players.
4 new players, and that it'll be the last stream before everyone gets on the Gen Con plane. Although we will be trying to fill the holes as the team is away. So and giving you updates on Twitter and Facebook Live or whatever we can do. Depends upon what.
Yeah, expect lots of
data
Gen
is like.
Con updates. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Lots of updates about how crappy the hotel Wi-Fi is.
Yes, or how much we're in an Uber car most of the time going from our hotel.
Yeah.
But yeah, for those of you who like Roll for Shoes, we've got we're doing Roll for Shoes during our normal Barkies session next week. So that's one thing you have to look forward to, and a very special surprise for Saturday after Dark Sun, which we will announce later this week. But something very cool. And that's it. That's what I'm gonna on that bombshell. I'm gonna drop.
Oh, you're just teasing us, Tom.
Yeah.
You're just teasing us. Oh, which is the crueler dungeon master?
Who
I think.
who brought the grump with the dire
That's
crumpet?
right. It's true.
Anyway, thanks again, James, for that. Thank you, Brian D20 Monkey, for making it, and appreciate it. We love all those things that you guys do for us. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you here probably tomorrow. The rest of this week we'll have more shows.
Awesome.
So-
Thanks for your support, guys.
Thanks. Bye.